Faker sitting on the sidelines, getting a little bit of a rest. In comes the 17-year-old phenom Clozer. It's really good to be a League of Legends player named Clozer lately in League of Legends, by the way. So Clozer has a great first showing for T1, winning both their games due T1. Tyler, what did you make of Clozer's debut with T1 in his matches?
First off, it's actually quite funny you brought up the other Clozer because Clozer from T1 had actually changed his ID to the Z from the S because of Golden Guardians Clozer. Can't have two top, pro players in the upper echelon of League of Legends play with the same ID, with the same capitalization and everything. Viper and Viper is quite weird too, but Clozer had to change his name. My thoughts was it was a bit of a surprise that he was starting. Obviously, T1's been in a bit of a rut. They were playing two of the weaker teams in the LCK. Clozer just turned 17. From what I know, Faker this was a prepared break. This was not a spur of the moment thing where Clozer was outperforming Faker in scrims or the team wanted to play a Clozer over Faker. This was much more of a Faker wants his yearly 1 or 2 break, rest on the sidelines, get prepped, get ready for the playoff where he is still the best playoff player in the world. Every time he goes to the playoffs, he is the best player. I don't care what the regular season stats stay. In the playoffs, Faker is a different beast. But for Clozer, I thought he was quite impressive. I think there might be a bit too hype around him based on the games he played. I think he showed some mistakes, especially in his Zoe play, and it kind of overall in kind of he had some moments where he showed his greenness. His Akala game, for example, he had some amazing solo kills, but there was also moments where he was going too far. And while that individually was a bit green, I do think that aggressive style did help T1 beat up on these lower ranked teams where T1, maybe a Faker, might have played that counter-punching style that T1 is so famous for. And against a team that you are better than mechanically and kind of roll over, you kind of want the aggressive player to push the pace because in a 5-on-5 team fight on a mechanical level, Kana, Teddy, Effort, these guys can just outplay the bottom of the level teams. So I do think this is the best spot for Clozer to come in. I don't think we're going to see Clozer in the playoffs. He might play a few more games as we lead into the playoffs, but rest assured, when the playoffs start and T1 is in the first round, probably playing against Afrika, you will be ready to see Faker in that lineup because when push comes to shove, when the playoffs are on, when the stars are bright and everyone's watching, Faker is still the greatest of all time, not only in the past, but the current present. He's won 3 LCK titles in a row, and there is no way a 17-year-old rookie is going to step in his place when he's going for the 4P.
Emily, what do you think of Clozer's debut?
I think I agree with Tyler that there are very obvious reasons why they decided to bring out Clozer against KT and Sandbox, because those are not the top, as much as it might hurt me to say as a KT fan, they are not the top teams. KT can apparently only beat people when they have Smeb, or they can only beat top teams when they have Smeb on Maokai, so as a support. Anyway, KT jokes aside, I think this is a really great opportunity for Clozer to get out there, get his name out there, get people talking about him. I love that T1 did this. I know there's a non-zero amount of people who are just no, we must take every single game super, super seriously. And the thing you have to understand about LCK and LPL being in these giant best of 3 matches is that you will get matches like this where obviously T1 are heavily favored to win. And this is a great chance for Clozer to come out and shine. I thought he was fine. I think he lived up to my own hype for him and that he performed really well. And they facilitated him really, really well. And so I liked to see that. I think he'll be a really good player going forward. I don't think it's oh my gosh, this is the strongest debut I've ever seen, but that's a lot to live up to. And in terms of my expectations for him, I thought he did really well.
So this leads into the conversation, of course, of hyped up rookie debuts. Clozer certainly on the higher end in recent history. But what about the most hyped rookie debuts in League of Legends history? Let's go around the table and talk about some of our most memorable rookie debuts in previous years of League of Legends competitive. Tyler, what's your fondest rookie debut memory?
There's so many. I listed a few of them. The hyped mid lane debuts in LCK/Champions history over the years, and there's been quite a few. Rookie, Showmaker, the one trick Katarina player, who's now turned into maybe the best player in the world. He's having a redonkulous season on Damwon. We can get more to that as the season goes along, but Showmaker's having a year. But my pick was BDD. And while he is now a 3-time MVP, the most ever in Champions/LCK history, Faker only has 2. He has the most in history of the LCK with 3. BDD was so hyped going into his debut back in 2016. He was on CJ Entus, which was this premier brand. I know a lot of newer League of Legends fans have no clue what CJ Entus was, but CJ Entus was right there with SKT and KT as the big brands in South Korea. They were really the first dynasty in South Korean League of Legends esports with CJ Entus Blaze and CJ Entus Frost. It was a team that had gone on a kind of a downturn in 2016 at the end of 2015 with some of their players leaving. And they had this young rookie player named BDD who was 16, who was known as this one-trick Zed player, a mechanical god. His clips were going viral on YouTube. Everyone was talking about he was the next Faker. He was the savior of CJ Entus. He was going to turn everything around. He was going to come in and just hard carry like Faker did on his early days on SKT. And finally, after a season of waiting, after weeks of waiting, finally, he got his chance to play when he turned 17. The first game he was eligible, similar to Clozer, he got thrown into the starting lineup. And unlike every other hyped mid laner with Rookie and Faker and Clozer and Showmaker and Chovy, BDD lost. BDD lost his first ever game in the LCK. He went perfect. He was on Lulu. He had a perfect KDA, but his team lost. And that continued through his first season where he tried to do too much. He tried to be that hard carry player that he was in solo queue, and it didn't work out. And his team got relegated, and BDD went from the most hyped player since Faker to being a bust. And he had to turn around his entire career after getting relegated. And I talked to him. I did a big feature about him about 2 years ago where when he was relegated, he realized he had to change his style to become a more all-around player, where he started playing Talia, Galio, and started to enable the other side lanes. And that's kind of the complete player we see today. He transformed from the most hyped rookie in the world, who everyone thought was going to save CJ. CJ died. They got relegated and then left League of Legends entirely. But BDD reformed. He changed up his style. He went to Longju/Dragon X/ whatever organization they allow names. He went to that organization, became a champion, and now he's a 3-time MVP in the league, one of the best players in the world. BD, unlike other rookies who had quick ascents, he busted and then rose back up and climbed there himself by changing his not just his personality, but his play style as well. So that's why he's one of my favorite players to watch, not just today, but for the last few years, because he transformed how he played. And I love these, the next Faker narratives are so rich in League of Legends. Who's going to be that next big mid laner? He's really one of the few that kind of failed, but then has kind of shot back up. And he has something that Faker doesn't have. Is that the 3rd MVP trophy? So BDD, one of the best players in League of Legends today.
You could say that BDD got knocked down and then got up again?
Yes, Arda. We can say he got knocked down and got up again. And never going to let it down.
No.
Jacob, who is your most hyped rookie debut in League of Legends competitive?
So this may seem like eons ago, and that's kind of because it is, and every day seems like forever now in the middle of the pandemic. But nonetheless, Incarnation. I think many people now known as Jensen. Many people know him for what he's done on Liquid the past year, but even more so, I think it's notable to talk about where he came from. So, if you remember anything about him, he was banned in Europe with a unset amount of time on that ban. There were a bunch of things. Being toxic, allegedly DDoSing people in solo queue games, a bunch of other things. And there was kind of word, and I remember this as a young reporter, there was kind of word around in early 2015 that he may get unbanned. And there were a lot of teams that were really interested in him. And Cloud9 actually signed him to a contract before he was even unbanned. That was essentially paying him to do nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. For him to just, continue. He, was allowed to continue playing solo queue in Europe. So his skill, I mean, his like mechanical skill was still very high. And yeah, they signed him to a contract to basically do nothing. But in the event that he was unbanned, that he would agree to come play for Cloud9 in North America, which he did. So he got unbanned. I believe that April they signed him in, I believe in March or April of that year. He got unbanned shortly thereafter and moved to North America, and people were really, really excited. Obviously, things didn't go that well in the split. That actually is the split, if I remember correctly, that they qualified through the gauntlet run, where High came back as the jungle player and in place of Medios. What a crazy summer that was for C9. But he was really, really hyped because people knew that he was like the best player in solo queue in all of Europe and had been for some time, and circumstances keeping him from playing professionally. And yeah, I just remember that entire ordeal being really exciting, and I think that where he is now is very different from where he was 5 years ago.
Emily, what's yours?
So I'm going to go all the way back to, not as far back as either Tyler or Jacob went, but I'm going back to the 2017 regional finals for China. And we have Invictus Gaming, who it's Rookie's team now. The Shy has joined. We have this team where we're just like, God, they have such great solo laners. They're on the cusp of making it to Worlds. They lose to Team WE in a 3-2, like really, really close. The team is obviously crushed. Like Rookie walks off stage and he's just devastated. He later makes a Weibo post like cheering WE on, and the whole thing is heartbreaking. Like everyone, like, I mean, there's a little bit, people are fans of Team WE or IG, but so many Invictus Gaming fans were like, like we almost made it. We're almost here. And one of the things that had been repeated all throughout 2017 was about the state of IG's bot lane. And everyone was just like, if we could get someone in who is stronger than West, this team will be formidable. And there was a trainee on IG, and they were just waiting for him to come of age. It was Jackie Love. He comes onto the season in 2018. IG has insane regular season performances, but they cannot beat RNG. RNG, like, take the year entirely. And so I think one of the narratives that people kind of forget about the IG of 2018, because they did win Worlds, is that they would always come up against RNG. And RNG, it was RNG's year. Like, that was Uzi's year. That was the year that RNG were going to win the title. And this IG team with Jackie Love, who had like insane regular season performances, they basically they came in of themselves at the perfect time at the 2018 World Championship, did super well. Jackie Love is probably, I would say, one of the most hyped debuts of the past several years in China, just because people knew of him as a trainee since he was about like 14 or 15. And he was like Invictus Gaming's, like, he was their star. Like, they'd been training him for forever. They were waiting for this moment, and they won the World Championship in that first year of his pro debut, which is actually insane. The fact that he's not still on IG is somewhat it's hard to think of for me sometimes, because he was going to be like their guy, So that's why I picked Jackie Love, because I think people knew of him for so long. And winning the World Championship in your debut year, especially when there was this team in your own region that kept, they kept you down, is great. And it was an amazing season to watch from that IG team.